你长得顶出来了，所以说这里都。我们还是老规矩啊，把这个后路给它断了，然后再把指甲给它取出来。清的还是比较深的这种。好了，可以了啊，可以的。下来再去牵着它。来啊，角度找好，看着指甲，来，后面推。这么大一块。不顶了吧？没事了是吧？就这大个这么大一块是顶的。另外一侧啊，一侧几个月了？4个月了是吧？
这个5个月。
5个月了。
这边这个先找，左边这个先找呢。
这边也可以了，看看这边有多大一块啊！小乖乖给我出来！两个针都是自己剪了100留下的，是录了吧？
哦，
是不是？100啃了几个？对了。
什么呀？这是个小棍儿啊，害怕呀？不用害怕，你看手机，看手机你也看得见。
急性甲沟炎啊。
不疼，不用害怕。
说那个有可能他活动多了也不一定。
这大脓包，窜这么老远。
脚还有那个什么血小了什么的。
啊。
哎呦，给人家一挤排出好多脓。
他的难受的时候都一蹦一蹦的疼，是不是？
啊。
是不是感觉他都一蹦一蹦的疼？
对。好。看着真恶心。
不要动哈，有不舒服。
是我发给你了，你看到没？最后他说那个什么60支的215，还是218忘了，那195然后那个 40支加厚。
今天弄完晚上晚一点吧，就舒服点了，它就不那么疼了。
我就问他，我说60支的能不能降到200？那个40支的能不能降到180？
它沿着就从这边上穿过去的。你躺着吧，躺着看着手机就看得见你这里了。
我也不用死乞白咧的，现在就给大概给他说个数。
不用害怕，是不疼的啊！你看这个脓，老多脓了，这。你摘不来，你这个指甲盖都保不住。
对，他找别人要的，具体的我是给他接他，他给我把你们那个卖的那个单的那个发我，我都不要这个。是，我说
在学校有受伤吗？被同学踩到这种没有？
我说我要那个，被踩了，要发那个。
被踩了一下。
就轻轻的踩。
你这两天弄完要小心啊，别让同学踩到了啊！你看，就是这个指甲的原因，我给他就这个指甲的原因，然后导致他发炎，发炎之后严重串了，就这么多脓。
我说那个什么，他跟我说呢，你放心，河南的我都刚河南的都是我发的。然后他就把那个发过来了，把你们家那个。
疼不疼？还好吧？就这个感觉，不用害怕啊。
我要说那个让他发过来，咱约个时间，咱俩去看一眼。周4、周5呗。周5你是不是要接孩子？那不行。那不行，就咱俩就周5吧。周5下午去呗。吃完午饭，咱俩也别吃午饭了，现在哪儿不安全，被流掉了。
老多脓了。
是啊。有可能怕流掉啊。我一看流掉。好吧，真是该做还得做。多少人？10几个。开吧，10几个不完成意思。慢慢干。有这么多老师。
可以，预约都不见了，可以。
有进来了吗？
这样碰到疼不疼？
还行。
还好啊。要难受就跟叔叔讲啊。
是啊，你这不就干完了吗？
For waters, a journey of awakening and practice that spanned 20 years. In the ancient land of the East, there is a circumstance that the Buddha gave to practitioners. On the road of practice, there are 4 kinds of water that cannot be touched, otherwise all previous efforts will be wasted. These 4 mysterious waters, like reefs hidden in the fog, test the wisdom of every practitioner. The story of Chinese medicine practitioner Lin Qingming begins with the mistaken drinking of the first water, and gradually reveals the true meaning of practice that transcends life and death. Lin Qingming, a Chinese medicine practitioner born in the market, has a life of 35 years old like a calm lake. His parents died when he was young, and he grew up under the warm wings of his grandmother. His grandmother is a devout Buddhist believer. The chanting of scriptures every morning and the Buddhist stories at night soaked his childhood like spring rain. However, the young and energetic Lin Qingming regarded these as superstitions of the older generation. In his heart, cells under the microscope and drugs in the pharmacopoeia are the keys to unlocking the mysteries of life. After graduating from university, Lin Qingming opened a Chinese medicine clinic in the city with his solid medical skills. The aroma of herbs in the clinic and the smiles of patients after reconstitute his ordinary and fulfilling life. Until the huge wave of fate suddenly hit, 3 years ago, a ruthless car accident took away his beloved wife Li Yan, leaving only his young daughter Xiao Yu to depend on him. The death of his wife was like a heavy hammer, shattering Lin Qingming's spiritual world. He began to numb himself with alcohol, and the business of the clinic went from bad to worse. What is even more distressing is that Xiao Yu had repeated high fevers after her mother's death. She went to various major hospitals, but various precision instruments could not find the cause of the disease. Looking at his daughter's increasingly thin face, Lin Qingming almost collapsed, and the abyss of despair seemed to swallow him completely. Just when he was at the end of his rope, his grandmother's last words suddenly appeared in his mind. If one day you are confused, go to the Guanyin Pavilion in the east of the city. Maybe you can find the answer. Holding the last glimmer of hope, Lin Qingming hugged the sick Xiao Yu and set foot on the mountain road to Guanyin Pavilion. Guanyin Pavilion is located halfway up the mountain, far away from the hustle and bustle. The ancient trees were towering, and the mottled sunlight leaked through the interlaced branches and leaves. The mountain breeze was wrapped in the fragrance of pine and cypress, which made people feel refreshed. For the first time, Lin Qingming knelt down in front of the statue of Guanyin Bodhisattva with sincerity, and his voice choked with sobs. Buddha, please bless Xiao Yu with peace and health. If there is a blessing, I would rather let her bear all this for me. Just as he stood up and prepared to leave, a white-haired old monk called him. The old monk's Buddhist name is Fa Yuan. His eyes are like a clear spring, calm but containing the power of insight. He looked at Xiao Yu and said compassionately, "This child has too much yin in his body. Ordinary people can't cure it with medicine. I have a prescription that may be worth a try." Lin Qingming had no other choice but to try his luck. Miraculously, after taking a medicinal bath according to Fa Yuan's prescription, Jiwo's condition began to improve, and she was completely recovered a week later. This miraculous cure, like thunder, exploded in Lin Qingming's heart on thinking about the unknown world. From then on, Lin Qingming began to frequently visit Guanyin Pavilion. From initially asking questions with doubt, to gradually being attracted by the profound wisdom of Buddhism, and then to in-depth study, he completed the transformation from a scientific believer to a devout Buddhist. Master Fa Yuan told him, "Buddhism is not superstition, but an insight into the essence of life, and a crystallization of wisdom that transcends time and space." Lin Qingming combined traditional Chinese medicine with Buddhism, not only paying attention to the physical pain of patients, but also soothing their spiritual trauma. The reputation of the clinic is getting better and better, and patients are coming in an endless stream. Time flies. 2 years have passed, and Lin Qingming is becoming more and more diligent in his practice. When chanting scriptures in Guanyin Pavilion every day, the inner peace and joy make him feel as if he has found the destination of life. However, the test of fate always comes inadvertently. It was an ordinary afternoon. After chanting scriptures, Lin Qingming felt thirsty, so he came to a spring in the mountains to drink water. The spring water was clear and sweet, and he couldn't help but drink a few more sips. At this time, an old monk who had never seen him walked slowly out of the woods. The old monk had white hair and beard, a peaceful face, but his eyes were as sharp as a sword. "Have you drunk mountain spring water recently?" the old monk asked directly. Lin Qingming told him the truth, but the old monk shook his head and sighed. "There are 4 kinds of water that people who chant the Buddha's name should not touch, otherwise all merits will be lost. You have mistakenly drunk one of them, and I am afraid that your practice will be ruined. These words were like a bolt from the blue. Lin Pingming was full of doubts. Master, may I ask what this means? I have never heard of any water that is not drinkable. The old monk claimed to be a monk who saved everyone, and invited Lin Pingming to a simple meditation room. As the aroma of tea wafted in the air, Padu began to talk about the mysterious 4 kinds of water are not real streams, but warnings set by the Tathagata Buddha for practitioners. They are 4 kinds of demons that corrode the soul. Lin Pingming asked eagerly, and Padu picked up the teacup and slowly said, "The first kind is the water of ingratitude. Mr. Lin, you have been practicing for more than 2 years. Do you remember who led you to the door, and who lent a hand when you were most desperate?" Lin Pingming immediately replied, "Of course I remember. It was Master Fau An who saved Xiaoyu and guided me to learn Buddhism." Padu said meaningfully, "You have not visited Fau An for 3 consecutive times due to the busy affairs of the clinic recently. Have you gradually forgotten his kindness?" Lin Pingming's face flushed instantly. Indeed, as the clinic business prospered, he was entangled in various affairs. The frequency of visiting Fau An changed from once a week to once every half a month. Now he has not visited for 3 weeks. He did not intend to be ungrateful, but in the rush of worldly affairs, he unconsciously ignored the precious master-disciple relationship. The water of ingratitude is not only about forgetting the kindness of others, but also a sign of losing one's original heart. When a practitioner begins to forget the nobles in his life, his mind will be covered with dust, and eventually he will lose his way in the pursuit of fame and fortune. Padu's words were like hammers, hitting Lin Pingming's heart. Before Lin Pingming could recover from his self-blame, Padu said again, "The second type is the water of resentment. Mr. Lin seems calm on the surface, but deep in his heart, do you have unresolved resentment?" Lin Pingming was silent for a long time, and whispered, "I still cannot forgive the driver who hit and killed my wife. Although he has been imprisoned, every time I think of the scene of my wife's tragic death, my heart is filled with hatred. This is the water of resentment." Padu looked solemn. Buddhism emphasizes the cycle of cause and effect. When will the cycle of revenge end? If there is resentment in your heart, it is difficult to cultivate a pure heart, even if you recite the sutra 1,000 times a day. Lin Pingming was struck by lightning. He had always thought that he had accepted his wife's death, but he didn't know that the seeds of hatred had already taken root in his heart and became a huge obstacle on the road of cultivation. The third kind is the water of greed. Padu continued, "Master Lin's medical skills have improved, and the number of patients has increased. Have you ever developed greed because of this?" Lin Pingming said frankly, "I am indeed happy about the increase in income of the clinic. I have also thought about expanding the scale and making more money." Padu smiled and said, "Practicing medicine and saving lives is a merit, but once greed arises in the heart, you will lose your original intention. Money is like flowing water. It can nourish all things, but it can also overturn and drown. Only by grasping the right way can we follow the right path." Lin Pingming suddenly realized and sweated. Recently, his mind was full of how to expand the clinic, increase income, and even plan to open a chain of clinics. He had long deviated from his original intention of saving lives. Just as Padu was about to explain the fourth kind of water, a burst of hurried footsteps interrupted the conversation. The young monk came running over. "Master Pan, Master Fau An suddenly fainted. The situation is critical. Lin Qingming and Padu were shocked and rushed to Fa Yuan's meditation room. They saw Fa Yuan lying on the bed with a pale face and a weak breath. Lin Qingming immediately stepped forward to feel his pulse, his face solemn. Master Fa Yuan has both qi and blood deficiency. It may be due to overwork. You need to take medicine immediately, otherwise it may be dangerous. He quickly took out the precious medicinal materials from the medicine box and told the young monk to boil the medicine. Standing by the bed, watching the soup fed into Fa Yuan's mouth little by little, until the old man's breathing gradually stabilized, Lin Qingming breathed a sigh of relief. At this time, Padu walked up to him and said, "Donor Lin is a skilled doctor who saved Fa Yuan's life. We just talked about the fourth kind of water." Lin Qingming shook his head and interrupted, "Master, although Master Fa Yuan's condition has improved, he still needs to be closely observed. Can we talk about the teachings of the fourth kind of water another day? I want to stay here to take care of Master Fa Yuan." Padu nodded with satisfaction and said, "Donor Lin is loyal and knows how to be grateful. This is rare. In this case, the secret of the fourth kind of water will be left for another day." For the next 3 days, Lin Qingming stayed by Fa Yuan's side. He handed over all the affairs of the clinic to his assistants and concentrated on preparing prescriptions and observing the condition. During this period, he constantly reflected on Padu's teachings and regretted his previous negligence. On the evening of the 3rd day, Fa Yuan finally woke up. Seeing Lin Qingming's bloodshot eyes and haggard face, the old man was deeply moved. "Qingming, I heard that you didn't close your eyes for 3 days and 3 nights just to save me. Thank you for saving my life." Lin Qingming's eyes were red. "Master saved my daughter's life and led me to Buddhism. This is a great favor. What do I do now counts for nothing." Speaking of Buddhism, Lin Qingming remembered Padu's words and asked Fa Yuan if he knew the 4 kinds of water. Fa Yuan's face changed drastically after hearing this. "This is a secret of Buddhism." "How did you know it?" "There is indeed a monk named Padu in Pavilion, but he has passed away for 20 years. Lin Qingming was shocked, but he clearly talked with Padu and received precious teachings. Fa Yuan sighed. "Buddhism is mysterious, and karma is incredible. Perhaps Master Padu saw that you have wisdom and came to enlighten you." The teachings of the 4 kinds of water are indeed recorded in the ancient Jing Xing Sutra, but the mystery of the 4th kind of water is beyond my comprehension. After Fa Yuan recovered, Lin Qingming began to look for Padu's traces. He came to Padu's meditation room before his death, and saw a painting hanging on the wall. "Water of ungratefulness cannot be drunk, water of resentment cannot be taken out, water of greed cannot be seen, and the 4th kind of water, you will know it if you have a predestined relationship." Just as Lin Qingming was thinking hard about the painting, a bad news came. His daughter Xiao Yu suddenly fainted at school and was sent to the hospital. Lin Qingming rushed to the hospital like crazy, looking at Xiao Yu on the bed with a pale face, which was exactly the same as the situation 3 years ago. Western medical examinations were fruitless, and Lin Qingming remembered the medicinal bath 3 years ago, but this attempt had no effect, and Jiwo's condition became worse. In despair, he knelt in front of the bed and cried bitterly, "Buddha, please bless Xiao Yu again. I am willing to exchange all my merits for my daughter's health." At this moment, a flash of lightning streaked across the sky and thunder roared. Lin Qingming looked up and saw Padu appear at the door of the ward. "Donor, you finally understand the meaning of the 4th kind of water," Padu said. "What is the 4th kind of water?" Lin Qingming asked anxiously. "The 4th kind of water is the water of obsession. If you are obsessed with something and refuse to let it go, such as being obsessed with family affection and unable to see through life and death, you will drink the water of obsession. Donor, let go of the obsession. Maybe you can find a way to save your daughter. Before he finished speaking, Padu disappeared. The 4 words "let go of obsession" set off a storm in Lin Pingming's heart. Xiao Yu is the whole meaning of his life and his only concern in this world. How easy is it for him to let go? But looking at his daughter's increasingly weak body, he had to face the struggle in his heart. After staying up all night, Lin Pingming returned to Guanyan Pavilion to ask Fa Yuan for advice. Fa Yuan sighed. Master Padu is right. The water of obsession is the most difficult hurdle to overcome on the road of cultivation. Everyone has obsessions, whether for family love, fame, or life and death. These obsessions are like shackles that bind the soul and prevent people from gaining true freedom. Lin Pingming was confused and said, Master, if I am not obsessed with saving Xiaoyu, then what is the point of my practice of chanting Buddha if I don't even care about my relatives? Is there any value in such practice? Fa Yuan's eyes were firm. Let me ask you, are you practicing chanting Buddha to save Xiaoyu, or to cultivate yourself and save others? This question was like a revelation, which made Lin Pingming suddenly enlightened. It turned out that his practice had always been highly utilitarian, in order to achieve the purpose of saving his daughter. How could such practice accumulate real merit? Letting go of obsessions is not being cold and heartless, but not being attached to the results. You can do your best to treat Xiaoyu, but you must accept all possibilities calmly. Illness and death are natural laws that even Buddha cannot reverse. A true practitioner should maintain inner peace and calmness. Fa Yuan's words were full of wisdom. Lin Pingming returned to the hospital and looked at Xiaoyu on the bed, and whispered, Xiaoyu, Dad has always been too obsessed. Obsessed with hatred, obsessed with money, and obsessed with your recovery. But Dad now understands that these obsessions will only make us suffer. No matter what the result is, Dad will always love you. Dad must let go of obsessions to truly help you. Then Lin Pingming began to calm down and recite the scriptures. This time he did not do it for any purpose, but simply practiced hoping to save all living beings by accumulating merits. In this tranquility, he suddenly had an epiphany and realized that the key to Zhiwo's condition was that the degree of imbalance between yin and yang was different from 3 years ago. He quickly adjusted the prescription, adding warming yang herbs and reducing cold herbs. Miracles happened again. After the adjusted medicinal bath, Zhuo's condition began to improve. 3 days later, she woke up with a ruddy complexion and recovered as before. After Xiaoyu was discharged from the hospital, Lin Pingming took her to Guanyan Pavilion. Here, they met Fa Yuan. Fa Yuan looked at them with satisfaction. Mr. Lin, you have understood the mystery of the 4 kinds of water. It is not easy. Lin Pingming bowed respectfully. Thank you for your guidance, Master. I have understood that the water of ingratitude makes people lose their original intentions. The water of resentment pollutes the soul. The water of greed makes people sink, and the water of obsession traps people. These 4 kinds of water are obstacles on the road of practice. Since then, Lin Pingming's practice has entered a new realm. He deeply integrated medical skills with Buddhism, not only treating patients' physical diseases, but also guiding them to purify their souls. His clinic became a well-known spiritual station. Far and wide, and many people came here to seek medical treatment. 5 years later, He Yuan passed away. He handed Lin Qingming a letter. Mr. Lin, 25 years ago, I met Master Pudu, who taught me the principles of the 4 kinds of water, but I only understood 3 kinds and failed to comprehend the mystery of the water of obsession. Now I see that you have fully understood, which shows that you have a deep affinity with Buddhism. You must know that these 4 kinds of water are originally the water of one heart. If the heart is not calm, the clear water will become poison. If the heart is pure, the poison will become nectar. 10 years later, Lin Qingming has become a highly respected master of traditional Chinese medicine and a Buddhist layman. His clinic has developed into an institution that integrates medical treatment, health preservation, and spiritual practice, benefiting countless people. He also wrote the story of the 4 kinds of water into For Water's Calming Records, to help more practitioners avoid the reefs of life. On this day, Lin Qingming brought Xiaoyu, who had become an excellent traditional Chinese medicine practitioner, to Huanian Pavilion. After worshipping in front of the spirit tablet of He Yuan, they came to the spring of that year. Looking at the clear spring water, Xiaoyu asked, "Dad, we can't touch these 4 kinds of water. Then what water should we drink?" Lin Qingming smiled and said, "Silly child, these 4 kinds of water are not real water but the obsession in our hearts. As the Diamond Sutra said, one should not dwell on anything and give rise to the mind. If you do not cling to anything, your mind will naturally be pure." As soon as he finished speaking, a golden light flashed above the spring, and the figure of Pudu slowly emerged. "Amitabha, Mr. Lin, I haven't seen you for 20 years, and you have become a great man." Lin Qingming and Xiaoyu hurriedly saluted. Pudu looked at Xiaoyu and nodded. "The little donor back then has grown up and will become a great man in the future. Donor Lin, you have understood the principle of the 4 waters returning to one. Do you have a deeper understanding?" Lin Qingming thought for a moment and said, "My disciple believes that although the 4 waters have different names, their essence is one. If the mind is pure, all waters are nectar. If the mind is turbid, even clear springs become poison. Cultivation focuses on cultivating the mind, rather than being obsessed with external appearances." Pudu nodded with satisfaction. "That's right. People in the world often cling to external appearances, but don't know that the key to cultivation is to understand the mind and see the nature. If you can keep your mind pure, you will naturally stay away from the troubles of the 4 waters." After that, Pudu's figure gradually dissipated, leaving only one sentence echoing in the valley. "The 4 waters return to one, and the water is clear when the mind is calm. Cultivation is the key to enlightenment. Those who practice this should reflect on themselves on the spot and never drink the forbidden water. Only by stopping the loss in time can the merits be fulfilled." After that, Lin Qingming continued to spread the Dharma and save people, until he passed away at the age of 90. His life began with drinking the water of ungrateful ones, by mistake. After going through many tests, he finally realized the true meaning of 4 waters returning to one. He used his own story to tell the world the 4 waters mentioned by the Buddha are actually a warning to the soul. Only by keeping the heart clear and staying away from ungratefulness, resentment, greed, and obsession can we walk steadily on the path of practice and obtain true liberation and perfection. In the ancient and mysterious ancient India, the Jet Haven Aim Monastery in the kingdom of Sav, at thee is like a pearl inlaid in the long river of wisdom, exuding charming brilliance. This is the place where the Buddha Shakyamuni often stopped to preach. Every inch of land and every leaf seems to be shrouded by the glory of the Dharma, and the air is filled with the breath of peace and awakening, which makes countless people yearn for it. On a sunny afternoon, the Buddha sat under the tall Bodhi tree as usual. His face was compassionate and peaceful, his eyes were slightly closed, and he exuded an otherworldly aura, as if he was one with the entire universe. Around dozens of disciples sat quietly unlistened with piety. They came from different backgrounds and had different experiences, but they were all attracted by the wisdom of the Buddha and eager to draw the nectar of liberation from troubles from the Dharma. Among the crowd were young monks who had just entered Buddhism and were full of curiosity about the Dharma, as well as many saints who had practiced for many years and achieved different levels of enlightenment, including the 500 highly respected arhats. Although they had eliminated many gross troubles, they still followed the Buddha tirelessly to pursue a more complete enlightenment. In this peaceful and tranquil atmosphere, a question that troubles countless practitioners and even ordinary people is about to be raised. This question, like a huge rock buried deep in the heart, weighs heavily on everyone's heart. It concerns our deepest obsessions and the heaviest burdens. In this ever-changing world, what is the most difficult thing to let go? Bhikkhu Shansi stood up and broke the tranquility. Before he became a monk, he was a wealthy businessman who had seen the prosperity and ups and downs of the world. Now, although he wears a cassock and begs for food, the shadow of his past luxurious lives still quietly emerges in meditation or dreams, bringing an indescribable bond. He respectfully saluted the Buddha with his palms together and asked, "Great and compassionate Buddha, I follow you to learn, and I know that all things in the world are caused by causes and conditions and change rapidly. We try to let go of our greed for material things and the pursuit of sensual pleasures. The disciple once had a mountain of gold, silver, and jewelry, a cloud of servants, and thousands of acres of fertile land. The sense of security and control over wealth brought by possession was very tempting. Although I have given up everything, I am still sometimes bound by it. For many people, is it the most difficult thing to let go of the huge wealth they once had and the secular status and security it represents?" The question of the monk Shansi resonated with many disciples. Many people had a wealthy past and knew the temptation of wealth to people's hearts. Everyone turned their eyes to the Buddha, looking forward to the Buddha's teachings. The Buddha slowly opened his eyes. His eyes fell softly on the monk Shansi, and nodded slightly, saying, "Shansi, the question you raised is indeed the confusion in the hearts of many people. In the eyes of secular people, wealth seems to be the foundation of life and the standard of measuring value. People work hard for it, and even do evil deeds. Having wealth can bring material comfort, satisfy many desires, and gain the envy and temporary respect of others. These benefits make people have a strong attachment to wealth, fear of losing it, and desire to have more. However, you need to think carefully. Can wealth really bring eternal happiness? It can buy a gorgeous bed, but it cannot buy a good night's sleep. It can buy delicacies from the mountains and the sea, but it cannot buy a healthy body and a good appetite. It can buy precious medicines, but it cannot prevent birth, aging, illness, and death. It can gather people who curry favor with you, but it cannot buy a heart that treats you sincerely. Wealth is like flowing water. It is with you today and may flow to somewhere else tomorrow. It is not something you can truly own. The sense of security you feel is often an illusion based on the fear of impermanence and change. Furthermore, wealth is often accompanied by troubles. If you have huge wealth, you have to worry about being stolen, cheated, and coveted. You need to spend energy to manage and increase the value of your wealth. It may even cause disputes, jealousy and hatred because of your wealth. When you are anxious about protecting your wealth, where is the so-called happiness? Now that you have nothing, rely on offerings from all directions, have no worries in your heart, and focus on practicing. Aren't you more relaxed and comfortable than when you were bound by wealth in the past? When you truly see through the essence of wealth, realize that it brings more troubles than happiness, and realize that inner peace and wisdom are the real wealth, will it be as difficult as you imagine to let go of your attachment to it? Bhikkhu Shansi listened to the Buddha's teachings with a thoughtful and ashamed look on his face. He recalled the various troubles and uneasiness he had when he had wealth in the past, and compared it with the inner peace now. He felt a huge difference. He bowed to the Buddha again and returned to his seat silently. At this time, Bhikkhu Wei stood up. Before he became a monk, he was a powerful minister around the king, and was highly respected. His every word and deed could influence national policy. Even though he was wearing a simple kasa, his brows still retained the majesty of the past. He said respectfully, Buddha, the wealth that Brother Shansi talked about is indeed difficult to let go, but in my opinion, what is more difficult than wealth to let go may be reputation and power. Thinking back to the past, I was in a high position, and when I went out, I was surrounded by people, and when I came in, I was respected by all officials, relied on by the king, and looked up to by the people. The feeling of being respected, needed, and remembered by history, the feeling of power that can decide the fate of others with just one word, is really intoxicating. Although I have seen through the world and followed the Buddha in practice, sometimes when I hear others talk about their past achievements, or recall the scenes of commanding the country in meditation, my heart will still ripple, and even have a hint of hidden pride and nostalgia. Letting go of reputation means being willing to be unknown. Letting go of power means losing the feeling of controlling everything. This feeling of loss from falling from the clouds, this feeling of no longer being seen and no longer important, is probably the most difficult to bear and the most difficult to let go. The words of the monk Huibi resonated with another part of the disciples, especially those who once had social status and prestige. The Buddha turned his eyes to Wei Di, his eyes full of understanding and compassion. Wei Di, the reputation and power you mentioned are indeed two things that people in the world strive to pursue. They can satisfy people's deep vanity and desire for control. Reputation is like an echo in a valley, seemingly real but without substance. The praise or slander of the world often changes with their emotions, interests and cognitive level. You may be praised to the sky today, but you may be trampled into the mud tomorrow. The good reputation you cling to is nothing more than the constantly changing impressions and evaluations in the hearts of others, and there is no stable and unchanging entity. When you build your own value on these illusory evaluations, your heart will fluctuate with the wind and grass in the outside world, and you will not be at peace. Power is more like a double-edged sword. It allows you to temporarily dominate others and satisfy your will, but at the same time it also makes you always in calculation, defense and fear. You are afraid of losing power, afraid of being challenged, and afraid of being overthrown. In order to maintain power, you may need to constantly struggle, compromise, and even go against your conscience. When you hold great power, do you really feel happy? Or are you always burdened by the burden of power and unable to find true peace? When you realize that true dignity comes from inner purity, wisdom and compassion, not the flattery of others. True power comes from the subjugation of one's own troubles, not the control of others. Will you still be so obsessed with external fame and power? Look at the sun and moon in the sky. They shine on the earth silently, never asking for praise. The earth silently carries all things, never boasting about its own strength. They have their own value and do not need external affirmation. When you let go of your obsession with fame and power, are willing to be ordinary, and focus on inner practice, you will find that a deeper and more stable dignity and power are rising in your heart. That sense of loss is just the ego at work, fearing that I am no longer important. When you realize the true meaning of selflessness, how can you feel lost? After listening to the Buddha's teachings, Bhikkhu Wei bowed his head deeply. He thought of the intrigues and helplessness in the officialdom in the past, and the true peace he had never had in his heart. He realized that what he was nostalgic for was nothing more than that illusory and important self-image. He sat down with a willing heart and felt relieved in his heart. Bhikkhu Wei stood up. He had a handsome face, but there was a trace of insoluble sadness between his brows. Before he became a monk, he had a happy family. His parents were still alive. His wife was virtuous and his children were filial. He said in a choked voice, "Buddha, wealth, fame, and power may be the most difficult for some people to let go, but I am stupid and feel that the most difficult to give up are worldly emotions, especially family affection and love." Disciples become monks to seek ultimate liberation, but every time when the night is quiet, the old faces of their parents, the gentle eyes of their wife, and the innocent smiles of their children will clearly emerge. The scene when I parted with them is vivid, and the kind of reluctance that is as sharp as a knife still hurts when I think of it. I often worry about their lives, their health, and imagine their sadness of losing me. This kind of blood connection, and the emotions accumulated from living together day and night, are like a tough silk thread wrapped around my heart, and I can feel the tug with every breath. To let go of all this is like giving up a part of myself alive. That kind of pain and worry are too heavy and too hard to let go. Buddha, is it the most difficult thing to let go of in this world? Is it the deep affection and lingering love between family members? The words of Bhikkhu Wei Ali touch the heartstring of almost everyone present. Whether they are monks or not, who has not experienced the bond of emotions, who has not felt the taste of love and separation? Many disciples had tears in their eyes and felt the same. The Buddha's eyes were full of infinite compassion. Looking at Wei Ali, his voice was particularly gentle. Wei Ali, I completely understand your feelings. Emotions are an important bond that maintains relationships between people. Family love and friendship can bring warmth, comfort, and motivation for life, but it is also these emotions that become the source of our deepest attachments and troubles. Because the nature of emotions is also impermanent. The bodies of your loved ones are changing, their minds are changing, and their relationships with you are also changing. There is no eternal reunion in the world. Separation and death are the realities that everyone must face. The reason you feel pain is that you are obsessed with having this emotion, afraid of losing them, and hope that this relationship can last forever. You regard them as my parents, my wife, and my children. This concept of me and mine is the root of pain. True love is not possession and bondage, but the hope that the other person can be happy and liberated. Because you love them, you choose to become a monk in practice, seeking a way to escape from life and death. This is a deeper and longer-term love. When you gain wisdom and compassion through practice, you can not only liberate yourself, but also help them in the right way and guide them to the light. Isn't this more meaningful than indulging in short reunions and unnecessary worries? You must learn to use wisdom to care for emotions. When fate comes, cherish the time you spend together and treat it with compassion. When fate ends, accept the separation calmly and face it with a blessing heart. Expand your attachment to a few relatives into a compassionate heart that is impartial to all living beings. When your heart is filled with care for all lives, the narrow attachment that brings pain will gradually fade. Your concern for your relatives can be transformed into a driving force for practice, and you can vow to work hard to save all living beings, including them. Emotions are no longer an obstacle, but a help on the path to Bodhi. Letting go is not about being heartless, but about transcending the constraints of emotions with wisdom and embracing everything with greater compassion. When you understand this, the heavy sense of separation will be transformed into a light sense of responsibility and broad love. Bhikkhu Eli's face was in tears. He understood the Buddha's words and realized that his love for his family should not be an obstacle to practice, but should be sublimated into greater compassion and motivation. He wiped his tears and bowed deeply to the Buddha, his heart filled with unprecedented strength and sense of direction. After that, several disciples successively mentioned what they thought was the most difficult thing to let go of. A learned monk said, "Buddha, I think the most difficult thing to let go of is my own views. We have studied many sutras and formed our own understandings and opinions. Sometimes we unconsciously think that our own opinions are the most correct and concise. We may reject, or even debate different opinions. It is very difficult to let go of the knowledge system and ideas that we have worked hard to build. Admit that we may be wrong, or admit that there are higher realms that we cannot understand. This kind of attachment to self-view is very difficult to break." The Buddha said, "Knowledge and views are like rafts to cross the river. They are tools to help us reach the other side, not the other side itself. When you hold on to the raft tightly and even regard it as the destination, it becomes an obstacle. The Dharma is used to break attachment. If you are attached to the Dharma itself and your own understanding, then that is Dharma attachment. True wisdom is to know that all dharmas are empty and not to be attached to any fixed views. Always maintain a humble and open mind. Have the courage to admit your own shortcomings and continue to learn and correct. Only by letting go of self-view can you accommodate a broader truth." Another monk who practiced diligently said, "Buddha, I find that the most difficult thing to let go of is the pursuit and attachment to the realm of practice. We strive to observe the precepts, cultivate concentration, and cultivate wisdom, eager to quickly attain a certain state, obtain some kind of supernatural power or experience. When the state appears, it is easy to feel happy and arrogant. When the state retreats, or is slow to come, we will feel anxious and frustrated. This greed for the results of practice, this desire to achieve it quickly, seems to be the most difficult to let go." The Buddha warned, "The path of practice is like climbing a mountain. You need to move forward step by step. If you pay too much attention to the scenery at the top of the mountain, you will ignore the road under your feet and even fall. The appearance of the state is the result of the combination of causes and conditions. It is a natural phenomenon in the process of practice. You should not pursue it deliberately, let alone cling to it. Clinging to the state itself is a new kind of trouble. True practice is to focus on every thought and action in the present moment, to constantly care for and purify your heart, not to gain a certain feeling or proof. When you let go of your expectations for results and just work hard, you will naturally succeed. and liberation will come inadvertently. Let go of your attachment to the achievements of practice, and you can truly settle in the practice itself. Another elderly monk, with a look of worry about aging and death, said, Buddha, in my humble opinion, the most fundamental and difficult thing to let go of is probably the love for this physical body and the fear of death. We take care of this body every day, feed it, protect it, and hope that it will be healthy and live a long life. When it gets sick and old, we feel pain and anxiety. The thought of this self completely disappearing, that huge fear is so real and strong. Letting go of attachment to life and facing death calmly, this is probably the ultimate challenge. The Buddha's eyes were full of penetrating power, and he said, the body is nothing more than a temporary aggregation of the 4 elements of earth, water, fire, and wind. It follows the natural laws of formation, residence, destruction, and emptiness. Birth, aging, illness, and death are inevitable processes. We use this body to practice, and we should treat it well, but we cannot cling to it and regard it as the eternal self. The fear of death comes from the fear that I will disappear. When you deeply realize the truth of no self through practice, you will know that there is no real self that will disappear with the death of the body. The so-called life and death are nothing but the phenomenon of the gathering and separation of the 5 aggregates, just like the ups and downs of waves. The essence of water has not changed. When one realizes the Dharma nature of non-birth and non-death and transcends the concept of life and death, the fear of death will naturally vanish. The key to letting go of attachment to the physical body and the fear of life and death is to break the deep-rooted ego. The Buddha responded to the disciples' questions one by one. Each teaching was like pulling out a coconut, pulling out a thread, going deeper and deeper and faintly revealing the root cause behind all kinds of things that are difficult to let go. The attachment to me and mine. The atmosphere of the entire jet. Even a monastery became more and more focused and more peaceful. All the disciples, including the 500 saints who had attained the Arhat fruit, listened attentively. Although the Arhats have eliminated the 2 delusions of seeing, unthinking, unfreed themselves from the cycle of birth and death, many of them may still have extremely subtle innate ego deep in their hearts, as well as a certain attachment to the state of nirvana, a subtle discrimination that I have been liberated. They vaguely felt that what the Buddha was about to say would be the ultimate and most core answer. At this time, Ananda, who was known as the most learned, had been standing beside the Buddha. At this moment, he straightened his robes, walked to the Buddha, bowed respectfully, then raised his head, his eyes full of desire for truth, and asked solemnly, Buddha, just now, each of you brothers has stated the things that you think are the most difficult to let go of in your heart: wealth, fame, power, emotions, knowledge, practice, and even attachment to the physical body and life and death. These are indeed huge obstacles on the path of practice. Letting go of them requires great determination and wisdom. But after listening to the Buddha's various teachings just now, I feel that these seem to be not the most fundamental and core difficulties. I beg the Buddha to be merciful and clearly explain to me, and all sentient beings in the future, among all the things that need to be let go in this world, what is the most fundamental and the most difficult to let go? The voice of Venerable Ananda was clear and earnest, echoing in the silent monastery. Everyone's eyes were focused on the Buddha, holding their breath. The air seemed to solidify, and even the spots of light from the sun shining through the leaves seemed to be still. The Buddha's eyes slowly swept over every disciple present. His eyes were as deep as the universe, as if he could see into the deepest corners of everyone's heart. Finally his gaze rested on the face of Venerable Ananda, revealing an approving smile. After a long time, the Buddha spoke. His voice was not loud, but it was extremely clear. With unparalleled penetrating power, it was transmitted to everyone's ears and shocked everyone's heart. Ananda, you asked a good question. All the things you just mentioned, wealth, fame, power, emotions, knowledge, realm, life and death, it does take a lot of effort to let go of them. For ordinary people, each one is like a huge mountain, difficult to shake. But as you feel, these are not the most difficult to let go. The Buddha paused for a moment, making everyone's heart rise to their throat, and then he spoke clearly, word by word. The most difficult thing to let go of in this world is the word I, that exists at all times and everywhere. It is the firm ego that believes that there is an I, hidden behind all thoughts, all feelings, and all behaviors. Think about it carefully. Why is it difficult to let go of wealth? Because I needed to gain a sense of security, satisfy I's desires, and prove I's value. Why is it difficult to let go of fame? Because I long for recognition and fear of being ignored, and I's sense of value depends on the evaluation of others. Why is it difficult to let go of power? Because I want to control, want to dominate, and want to satisfy I's will. Why is it difficult to let go of emotions? Because I am afraid of loneliness. I need dependence. I regard others as my property. Why is it difficult to let go of knowledge and views? Because I am right, and need to be affirmed for my wisdom. Why is it difficult to let go of realms? Because I long for achievement. I want to prove I's practice. Why is it difficult to let go of life and death? Because I am afraid of disappearing. I am attached to this illusory life form. All the things you find hard to let go, whether it is external material, fame, power, or internal emotions, thoughts, and experiences, their roots are firmly tied to that I,